EMPATH. Relationships, Empathy, and Dark Psychology. Written by Camellia Henson. Narrated by Samantha Novak. Chapter 1. What makes us as humans empathic? Why is it that we get miserable when we see someone crying and wince when a good friend cuts his finger? Do animals feel this emotional contagion as we do? An experiment released recently in the leading journal Present Biology shows us how the brain makes us share the feelings of others, and how likewise the brain of people and rats operate when sharing feelings. For a long time, many really believed that empathy is a distinctively human sentiment that sets us apart as a more moral species. More current observations chip away at this notion. Remarkable anecdotes emerged of chimpanzees who risked drowning in heroic efforts to rescue fellow chimpanzees in aquatic peril. Research studies showed rats, not known as the noblest of moral beings, invest considerable effort to free fellow rats from a trap. Indeed, emotions are contagious amongst rats. If one receives a moderate but shocking electrical shock, the rat gets terrified and freezes. It stops all movements. Rats do this to keep away from being detected by the main risk they encounter, predators. What is fascinating is that rats that notice the anxiety of another rat have been observed to also freeze. Somehow, the fear of one rat is moved to other, nearby rats, just as we get worried around anxious people. This observation led the way to checking out the brains of humans and rats to see what systems make feelings travel from one person to another, and to comprehend whether these symptoms are similar across species. In humans, this has been done by using functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, and typical experiments include two conditions. One in which the participant is exposed to a stimulus that activates an emotion, and one in which the participant witnesses someone else experience that feeling. For example, we can apply a moderate electroshock to the hand of a participant to see what brain areas are associated with feeling pain. The core brain area that activates is the anterior cingulate cortex. Most people with damage in this area no longer feel the emotional agony we associate with pain, and this region is therefore thought to be the hub of our psychological pain. Surprisingly, if you let the individual witness another person get such a shock, participants trigger brain regions involved in vision, but in addition, they also activate their cingulate cortex, just as if they were suffering themselves. That the exact same brain area is involved in pain and in experiencing the pain of others resulted in the speculation that it could contain pain mirror nerve cells that map the pain of others on our own sense of pain. Discomfort mirror nerve cells remained theoretical speculation, a kind of Higgs boson of emotional empathy, much speculated about but unseen. By recording from individual neurons in the same brain regions of rats, the existence of pain mirror neurons have now been verified. In the rat cingulate cortex, many nerve cells responded when the rat felt pain itself, but not when it was only scared by a tone. These nerve cells thus seems to be firmly linked to the animal's own sense of pain. Most of those pain nerve cells, however, also responded when the rat witnessed another rat in pain, and did so within less than 1/10 of a second. Like the speculations on pain mirror neurons had forecasted, the rat's cingulate cortex therefore includes afferent neurons that translate the witness pain of another into the substrate of the observer's own sufferance. That the rodent's own pain nerve cells got recruited so swiftly is telling in that it makes the sharing of pain more comparable to a fast reflex, instead of to a purposeful, reflective act of mental perspective taking. That this happens in the cingulate cortex, the very place in which people activate their brain while they witness the pain of others, shows that rats and people appear to share the standard biology of feeling sharing. We do not only share the ability to participate in the agony of others with rodents. We do so by using the same brain systems, the exact same fruits of social evolution. Empathy has roots that run deep in the tree of development and connect us with our fellow mammals. You might really wonder, how do we know that these nerve cells truly do make us share the pain of others? To answer that question, the activity of the cingulate cortex was suppressed by injecting a drug into the very brain area where the pain mirror nerve cells were found. Now, the rats that observed the pain of other rats no longer revealed signs of sharing that agony. Altering activity in the cingulate sufficed to alter emotion sharing. Demented criminals do terrible things to people without feeling the real moral shackles of remorse and empathy. Intriguingly, just as the rats with pharmacologically suppressed cingulate activity, such psychopaths show minimized activity in their own pain regions while seeing the pain of others. An animal model in which feeling sharing can be changed offers some hope for unlocking the development of drugs to stabilize empathy in clients who struggle with abnormal empathy. Though it remains hard to truly know what animals feel, the similarity across species in the brain mechanisms that are at play is striking. Perhaps the instinct we have that animals are endowed with empathy is not as irrational as some once thought. Chapter 2. How to know if you are an empath. An empath is a psychological sponge who soaks up both the positivity and the tension of other people in the world. Empaths need to learn strategies to keep their energy high and stop taking on other individuals' distress. To find out if you're an empath, take the following 20-question self-assessment, addressing mainly yes or mainly no to each question. Empath test. Have I been labeled as extremely sensitive, shy, or introverted? Do I regularly get overwhelmed or anxious? Do arguments or yelling make me ill? Do I often feel like I don't fit in? Am I drained by crowds and really need alone time to restore myself? Am I overstimulated by noise, smells, or nonstop talkers? Do I have chemical sensitivities or can't endure scratchy clothes? Do I prefer taking my own car to places so I can leave early if I need to? Do I overindulge to handle stress? Am I scared of becoming suffocated by intimate relationships? Do I get startled easily? Do I react strongly to caffeine or medications? Do I have a low pain threshold? Do I tend to socially separate? Do I soak up other individuals' tension, emotions, or signs? Am I overwhelmed by multitasking and prefer doing just one thing at a time? Do I replenish myself in nature? Do I really need a long time to recover after being with difficult people or energy vampires? Do I feel better in small cities or the country than large cities? Do I prefer one-to-one interactions or little groups rather than large gatherings? Now compute your results. If you answered yes to 1 to 5 questions, you're at least partially an empath. Responding yes to 6 to 10 questions means that you have moderate compassionate propensities. Responding yes to 11 to 15 means that you have strong empathic tendencies. Answering yes to more than 15 questions implies you are a full-blown empath. Figuring out if you're an empath will clarify your needs and which techniques to use to meet them. This is essential to gain a comfort zone in your life. Chapter 3. What to say to empathize better with your kids. When our children are upset, we grown-ups tend to want to skip the feelings and go straight to the solution. In some cases, this works. If your child is miserable about dropping her ice cream cone, just saying, "I'll get you another one," can make everything all better. But when feelings are more intense or more complicated, kids have difficulty even considering solutions till they feel heard. Talking about emotions helps kids to find out about their own and other individuals' internal experiences. Wrapping big, sloppy emotions up in words makes them appear more reasonable and therefore more workable. Aside from that, when children do not feel heard, they tend to get louder. Expressing empathy through reflection. Reflection is a way of expressing empathy that involves defining the feelings you see. It's kind of like holding up a mirror to your child to acknowledge, what you're feeling matters. I am paying attention. I am interested, and I care. Here are some phrases you may want to try. 1. The gentle query. You appear sad, grumpy, anxious. What's going on? Use this expression to open a conversation when you're picking up something is off with your child, but you are unsure what. Pick your moment carefully. You might need to do this when you are not rushing around or when there are no sisters or brothers around. Some children respond best with physical contact. Take a seat next to your child. Maybe stroke your child's hair or back. Some children respond best in more neutral scenarios. You could ask while you are walking, driving, or doing tasks together. 2. The label and acknowledge. You're feeling happy, guilty, or annoyed just because event or situation. This one is your go-to phrase. It labels your kid's emotion and links it to whatever is going on. Make sure to use your kid's comments, body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice, plus your own capability to envision yourself in your child's shoes, to define what your child is feeling and why. Sometimes parents or caregivers are scared that they may say the wrong feeling. Don't worry, your child will correct you. I'm not angry, I'm mad. Okay, that's fine. Your child is still doing the essential work of wrapping emotions into words. The careful guess. It seems like you're feeling angry, hurt, embarrassed about event or situation. With some kids, particularly teens, it pays to be tentative when reflecting feelings. Saying it seems like or it appears like acknowledges that your child is a specialist of his own feelings. 4. The exclamation. How exciting, frustrating, disappointing. This is a useful phrase for acknowledging intense emotions. You should use your own intonation and body language to convey that you are right there, clearly and emphatically knowledgeable about your kid's emotion. 5. The general paraphrase. It bothers you that event or situation. It's difficult for you when event or situation. For children who are fidgety about talking straight about emotions, these subtler ways of echoing their experience can be useful ways to ease them into a conversation about a tough subject. Though they do not obviously label feelings, they do more usually recognize stress or difficulties, so children feel less alone with their struggles. 6. The implied ideal. You wish. This phrase steps past the present facts to talk to longing. It is a gentle way of acknowledging your kid's hopes, intents, or regrets they may have. You may not have the ability to fix things for your child, but you can show you recognize how your child wants things. And when you get the hang of it, reflecting your kid's emotions isn't hard to do. Some of us have even made a profession out of doing this, simply because it works. Your child won't say, "Why, yes, what an insightful observation." But you're very likely to see a softening in your kid's face or body, or to hear a "yeah" of agreement. You could need to use a number of these phrases before you arrive there. That's okay. Do not move on to problem solving until you see or hear the softening that shows your kid feels heard. How you say the reflection is more vital than precisely what you say. Your goal is to express real caring. A distracted, impatient, or sarcastic tone of voice won't communicate empathy. At times, it can be helpful to add a qualifier like at this moment, today, or in that situation to your reflection about negative feelings. That accentuates for your child that feelings change, so she will not always feel that way. One last caution. Company people are often trained to say, "I comprehend you feel." This expression doesn't work with kids simply because it shifts the attention to I, the adult, instead of you, the child, who wants and needs to feel heard. Also, if you have ever had someone say, "I know exactly what you are going through," when that person absolutely didn't, you know how annoying it is to be dismissed and discussed in this way. Although children in some cases really appreciate hearing stories of their parents' or caregivers' youth struggles, leaping too rapidly to those can leave your kid feeling misinterpreted and even shoved aside. Just use the word you and keep away from I to keep the focus of your compassionate talk about your child. Chapter 4. The Power of Those Who Are an Earth Empath. Empaths also have an intimate communion with nature, including but not limited to with the earth, plants, and animals. The bright side is that we can deeply feel all that is positive and healthy in others and the world. The downside is that empaths become exhausted, restless, and burned out from sensory overload. Lots of my empath clients reach out to me with these signs, but were never ever identified properly by conventional doctors. Rather, they were just seen as having a panic attack, depression, or anxiety, and therefore given medications. If you recognize yourself as an empath, the big secret to supporting your instinctual connection to all living things is to build focusing and defense methods like meditation, setting clear boundaries, creating appropriate alone time to refuel, and many other methods I present in the Empath Survival Guide. Then empaths can savor the pleasure of their sensitivities. Earth Empaths. Earth empaths are a special kind of empath who is acutely attuned to the natural world and all of the Earth's changes. The prettiness of a waterfall can enliven and stimulate these empaths, while the toxicity of air pollutants can make them feel sick, tired, or depressed. How do you know if you're an Earth empath? You are highly vulnerable to intuiting the Earth's changes in your body. Sensually and energetically, you can feel the power of a thunderstorm, the loveliness of the moon, the warmth of the sun on your shoulders. What happens to the Earth is thoroughly linked to your body. The prettiness and health of the Earth nourishes and sustains you. The ocean and tides impact everybody, but specifically you. The moon and the tide control menstrual cycles in women and sleep-wake cycles for both genders. You are sensitive to weather changes and the amount of daylight. Earth empaths might experience seasonal depression, or SAD, being depressed in the winter season when the days are much shorter. The Earth, its elements, and the universe feel like family. The moon and stars have always been my companions. Ever since my youth, I have looked at the heavens and felt that my true home was there. One patient said to me that she chooses stargazing as her nightlife rather than the bars and clubs. Though surprisingly, I have learned that empaths, like myself, who have a tough time adjusting to being in this world, really need to connect to the Earth's energy so that we can more fully inhabit our bodies. Learning how to do this and not fighting it belongs to our healing. The Earth likes you. You can feel it. If you're an Earth empath, that is why you get so hurt, anxious, or have health problems when she's harmed or damaged. Your physical body is thoroughly connected to the Earth. You experience her changes just as if they were happening to you. When the Earth is happy, you are happy. When the Earth is in pain, you are also. Earth empaths might have premonitions about natural disasters or feel them intensely in their own bodies as they are taking place. One of my clients said to me, "I frequently get up just before earthquakes, and then boom, it hits." Another said, "Before earthquakes or volcanic eruptions, my body begins to shake. I feel off and not on solid ground." Another told me, "Throughout the last tsunami, I awoke from a deep sleep in a state of agitation and dread." A compassionate good friend said, "I really felt like I was hemorrhaging as a reaction to a catastrophic oil spill." Similarly, you should try to be aware of how your body responds throughout significant earth changes. Then you can put your feelings into framework and practice more self-care when they happen. As an earth empath, you may also be sensitive to solar flares. Those magnetic storms on the sun influence the magnetic fields around the earth and our bodies. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, cyclones, and twisters appear to happen after extreme solar activity. Throughout these time periods, you could experience headaches, mood swings, anxiety, or heart palpitations. Research studies have revealed an association between solar flares and increased depression, anxiety, suicides, and episodes of bipolar affective disorder. Revolutions, riots, and discontent around the world are associated with solar flares. Keep in mind, the sun is accountable for life on Earth. When it goes through changes, we feel it 93 million miles away. This experience is amplified for empaths. In order to stay lively, you want to often connect with the earth. Hang around in forests, by the ocean, or in the mountains, where you can commune with the elements and feel comfortable. If you want to deepen your bond with the earth, eat clean, healthy, and natural foods. Even better, grow them yourself. A processed food diet plan separates you from the earth because you're not consuming her energy. Routinely practice earthing. Lie flat on the earth to take in her strength and positive vibes. Wade or swim in lakes, rivers, or the ocean. Walk barefoot on the grass. Gaze at the stars. To purposefully communicate with the earth, you can tune into her by asking, "What do you feel?" Then be open to any intuitions that come. Or you can use the earth as an oracle, straight up asking her certain questions about yourself or others. She will address you through your instinct. Then follow her guidance. In native customs, earth medicine represents the healing that nature imparts. Environment is to be revered and taken care of. Being an empath, you can practice earth meditation by doing whatever you can to treasure our valuable mother world. This is a part of your purpose and a way for you to rejoice and be healthy and whole. Chapter 5. Physical Empaths. Compassionate illnesses are those in which you manifest signs that aren't your own. Most patients have come to me labeled agoraphobic, with panic disorders, chronic depression, tiredness, pain, or mysterious disorders that respond only partially to medications or psychotherapy. Some were nearly housebound or ill for several years. They would say, "I fear staying in crowds. Other people's anger, stress, and pain drain me, and I need a lot of alone time to refuel my energy." When I took a close history of all of these clients, I found out they were what I call physical empaths. People who are so permeable, they soak up the symptoms of others. I relate because I am one. Physical empaths don't have the defenses that others need to screen things out. As a psychiatrist, knowing this significantly changed how I treated these patients. My job ended up teaching them to center and secure themselves, set healthy limits, and release energy they picked up from others. To figure out if you're a physical empath, take the following test. Am I a physical empath? Ask yourself, have I been identified as excessively sensitive or a hypochondriac? Have I ever sat next to somebody who appeared good, but then all of a sudden my eyelids got heavy and I kind of felt like resting? Do I feel uncomfortable or exhausted or sick in crowds and keep from them? Do I feel someone else's anxiety or physical pain in my body? Do I feel exhausted by angry or hostile individuals? Do I run from doctor to doctor for medical tests, but I'm told, you're fine? Am I chronically tired or have many inexplicable signs? Do I frequently feel overwhelmed by the world and want to stay home? If you replied yes to 1 to 3 questions, you're at least part empath. Reacting yes to 4 to 5 questions suggests you have a moderate degree of physical empathy. A yes on 6 to 7 indicate you have a high degree of empathy. Marking yes to 8 indicates you are a full-blown empath. Figuring out that you are a physical empath can be a discovery. Rest assured, you are not crazy. You aren't a hypochondriac. You are not envisioning weird things, even though your physician might treat you like an annoyance. You are a delicate person with a present that you should develop and successfully manage. Strategies to give up poisonous energy. Physical empathy does not have to overwhelm you. Now that I can center myself and avoid handling other individuals' pain, empathy has made my life more thoughtful, informative, and richer. Here are some secrets to growing as a physical empath that I've learned so that it does not take a toll on my health. 9 techniques for empaths to stop absorbing other people's disease. Examine. First and foremost, ask yourself, is this sign or emotion mine or someone else's? It could be both. If the feeling like fear or anger is yours, carefully confront what is causing it by yourself or with professional help. If it is not yours, try to pinpoint the clear generator. Move away. If possible, you should distance yourself by at least 20 feet from the suspected source. See if you feel relief. Don't err on the side of not wishing to anger strangers. In a public place, don't waver to change seats if you feel a sense of disease imposing on you. Know your vulnerable points. Each of us has a body part that's more susceptible to soaking up other people's tension. Mine is my gut. Scan your body to decide on yours. Is it your neck? Do you get sore throats, headaches, bladder infections? At the start of symptoms in these areas, place your palm there and keep sending out loving kindness to that area to relieve discomfort. For long-term depression or pain, use this technique daily to strengthen yourself. It is comforting and builds a sense of security and optimism. Surrender to your breath. If you believe you are getting somebody else's signs, focus on your breath for several minutes. That is focusing and connects you to your power. Practice guerrilla meditation. To counter psychological or physical distress, act fast and practice meditation for several minutes. Do this at home, at work, at parties or conferences. Or take haven in the restroom. If it is public, close the stall. Meditate there. Calm yourself. Fixate on positivity and love. Set healthy boundaries and limits. Control how much time you spend listening to demanding people and learn to say no. Remember, no is a total sentence. Envision protection around you. Picture an envelope of white light around your whole body, or with incredibly manipulative people, visualize a fierce black jaguar patrolling and securing your energy field against trespassers. Cultivate your X-ray vision. The spaces between the vertebrae in your lower back are conducive to eliminating pain from the body. It's practical to learn to mindfully direct pain out of these areas by picturing it leaving your body. Say goodbye to pain as it mixes with the giant energy matrix of life, Take a bath or shower. A quick way to liquefy stress is to immerse yourself in water. My bath is my sanctuary after a busy day. It washes away everything from bus exhaust to long hours of flight to pesky signs I have taken on from others. Taking in natural mineral spring water cleanses all that ails. Keep practicing these methods. By safeguarding yourself and your space, you can develop a magic, safe bubble around you that supports you, while all at once driving negative people away. Do not worry if you occasionally pick up pain or some other nasty sign. It happens. With methods to surrender other people's signs, you can have quicker reactions to demanding situations. This will make you feel safer, healthier, and your sensitive feelings can bloom. Chapter 6. Food Empaths. Food is medicine. It can stabilize your sensitive system, but it can also break it. I've observed in my psychiatric practice that overindulging and food dependencies are pretty common among empaths. Food addiction is an unmanageable craving for excess food for which many diet plans and weight reduction programs usually do not prosper. Frequently, the particular addiction is to sugar or carbs. Excess weight can be a way of armoring yourself to stop soaking up other individuals' tension or troubling behavior. Putting on added pounds can make you feel more grounded, and it can function as a buffer against negativity. But grabbing sugar, carbohydrates, or junk foods for a pretty quick fix is a brief and unhealthy solution that gets addictively repeated. Diets often flop for sensitive people because they're unaware that they're eating, and eating way too much, junk foods, to safeguard themselves from frustrating or negative energy. When I say this to my empath clients who are battling with overeating, it's a life-altering insight for them. Take this test to determine if you're a food empath. Do you overindulge when you are mentally overwhelmed? Do you turn to sugar, carbs, and junk food to self-soothe pain? Are you highly vulnerable to the influence food has on your body? Do you get mood swings, brain fog, or feel hazardous from sugar, caffeine, sodas, or processed food? Do you have food allergic reactions and intolerances, such as to gluten or soy? Do you feel more safeguarded from stress when you are heavy? Do you feel energized by healthy, clean food? Are you susceptible to preservatives or gluten in food? Do you feel more vulnerable to tension when you are thin? Here's how to analyze this self-assessment. Responding yes to 1 to 3 questions shows that you have some tendencies towards being a food empath. Responding yes to 4 to 6 questions indicates you have moderate propensities to be a food empath. Responding to more than 6 indicates you are certainly a food empath and use food to self-medicate tension and pain. 6 guidelines for the empathic eater. If you are an empathic eater, you're going to really need to determine energetic stressors that set off eating way too much, such as a draining colleague, an argument with a friend, or feeling declined. Train yourself to clear the tension as quickly as possible to balance your system. Here are 6 ideas from the Empath Survival Guide to release negativity right before you eat those feelings away. You can breathe stress out of your body. When you feel stress, instantly focus on breathing gradually and deeply. This releases that negative energy. Holding your breath out of fear traps toxicity in your body. Water purifies you. You should drink filtered or mountain spring mineral water when you've been exposed to negative energy and have the urge to overindulge. Consume at least 6 glasses a day to keep eliminating contaminants. Take a bath or a shower. Water washes away impurities of all kinds. Limit sugar consumption. Although you could crave carbs and sugar, and also alcohol, they will destabilize you and activate mood swings. This makes you more vulnerable to absorbing undesirable energy. Eat regular protein meals. Protein stabilizes empaths and provides a sense of grounding. It is optimal to have small protein meals 4 to 7 times a day. This program will help you feel energetically more powerful, safer, and more anchored in the world. If you are a vegan, lots of protein is crucial. Don't let your blood glucose drop. Empaths are extremely susceptible to hypoglycemia. If you combine a hectic life with low blood glucose, you're bound to get overwhelmed. So do not skip meals, specifically if you happen to be planning to be in a congested place, when traveling or in business meetings. Consume lots of veggies. If you tend to overindulge and put on weight, vegetables will fill you up and restrict your cravings. You can also include some whole grains, but be careful of exaggerating it and setting off a carbohydrate dependency. Food can be a source of energy or exhaustion. You want to develop dietary habits that serve your sensitivities instead of aggravating them. Then you can maximize the energy you get from food and lessen the protecting defense reaction of empathic overeating. With tools to protect and ground yourself, you won't have the exact same cravings that used to undermine your best intents. Chapter 7. Relationship Empaths. In my practice and workshops, I am struck by how many sensitive people come to me desiring a long-term soulmate. As for me, I can connect to this. That being said, despite online dating services, pricey matchmakers, good friend fix-ups, and blind dates, they still stay single. Or else they're in relationships but feel constantly fatigued and overwhelmed. The reason isn't just that there aren't enough readily available people out there, or that they're neurotic. Personally and expertly, I found that something more is happening here. I found that a vital missing piece to this puzzle has been learning that I'm a relationship empath. Empaths are highly sensitive, instinctual, and caring, but they are also shock absorbers with an extremely permeable nervous system and hyper reflexes. They experience every little thing, enjoyment and pain, in some cases to an extreme. The amazing part of being so sensitive is that empaths are attuned to people, sometimes even telepathically, to nature, and can be exceptionally sensual, responsive lovers. The disadvantage is that empaths are sponges for the world's angst. Without a membrane between themselves and the world, they unknowingly soak up other people's stress into their own bodies. Then they end up being overloaded, restless, or exhausted. This varies from normal empathy, say when you sympathize with your partner's harrowing day at work. Relationship empathy goes much farther. You combine with your partner and actually feel his or her joys and fears as though they were your own. Thus, romantic relationships, particularly live-in ones, can be challenging. Let's explain more by describing what a relationship empath is, and I present methods to cope and not absorb the stress or symptoms of your mate. If you are highly sensitive and haven't determined this vibrant, you may unconsciously stay away from romantic partners because, deep down, you hesitate getting engulfed. A part of you wants a soulmate, and another part is terrified. That inner push-pull stops you from giving up to a partner. The closer you are to a person, the more intense empathy gets. To feel safe and secure enough to let go in a relationship, it's essential for empaths to learn how to set healthy boundaries and assert their needs. Then intimacy will be possible. To surrender your life to a true love, it is essential to discuss your fears of letting go with each other. Nonetheless, if you're an empath, you may not know what these are or that you're even resisting intimacy. Hence, you cannot communicate your needs or set healthy boundaries. To determine whether you are a relationship empath, take the following quiz. Ask yourself, have I been labeled as extremely sensitive? Am I afraid of getting swallowed up or losing my identity in intimate relationships? Do I prefer taking my own vehicle to places so I can leave when I please? Do I get drained by way too much togetherness and need alone time to refuel? Do I sometimes choose sleeping alone? When my partner and I travel, do I choose adjoining rooms? Do I tend to take on my partner's stress or physical symptoms? Do I feel overwhelmed by sound, smells, crowds, or excessive talking? If you answered yes to 1 to 3 questions, you are at least part relationship empath. Responding yes to 4 to 6 questions shows strong compassionate tendencies with partners. If you answered yes to 7 or more questions, you are a qualified relationship empath. Recognizing that you are a relationship empath is the first step to removing this obstacle to finding a soulmate. After this, you should redefine the traditional paradigm for coupling so you can find a comfortable way of being together. If you are an empath, or if the regular expectations of coupledom do not work for you, practice the following suggestions. 1. Examine a potential mate's compatibility. As you are being familiar with somebody, share that you are sensitive, that you value having alone time. The right person will understand. The wrong person will put you down for being overly sensitive. 2. Vibrations speak louder than words. Notice how you connect to a prospective mate's energy. Ask yourself, does the individual's words match their energy, or is something off? If you have any doubts about his or her credibility, go slow. To keep away from getting included with somebody who won't benefit you, keep tracking the person's energy with your compassionate capabilities to learn who they truly are. 3. Allow silent time at home to decompress. Get in the routine of taking mini breaks throughout the day. Tell your partner how crucial this is to you. Stretch, breathe, walk, meditate, listen to music. This time alone will replenish you. 4. Limit your time socializing with others. Tell your partner what your ideal time frame is to remain at parties or other get-togethers before you burn out. If your comfort level is 3 hours max, even if you love the people, make an agreement with your partner to take your own car if he or she chooses to stay longer. 5. Negotiate your privacy needs. Breathing room is a must. Explore creative living conditions. Ask yourself, what space arrangement is optimal? Do you have a private area to pull away to? Separate bathrooms? Separate houses? Agree not to crowd each other. When traveling together, you may prefer getting adjoining spaces with your own restroom. This works wonders for me. If sharing a space is the only choice, hanging a sheet as a space divider will help. Chapter 8. Intro to the Dark Empath. It might seem that people with Ray's dark triad qualities aren't compassionate, but it isn't so easy. In a fundamental sense, empathy serves people higher in dark traits. Dark qualities may be a necessary evil, perhaps important for group survival at critical times. Compassion or empathy, while serving altruism, is also a tool for the Machiavellian mind, which needs good intel for assessing and potentially making the most of others. 2 basic kinds of empathy. Compassion comes in 2 types, cognitive and affective. They are independent of one another, but also usually work in tandem. Cognitive empathy is the capability to see things from another's viewpoint. Affective empathy is the capacity to vibe with another's emotions. Cognitive empathy is more powerful in narcissism, while affective empathy is weaker. Psychopathy might serve the greater good. In performance-demanding circumstances like those faced by first responders, healthcare workers, soldiers, and others in high-stakes circumstances, feelings may disappear, opening to cool, streamlined estimation. Galligan and Bates, 2017, called this adaptive psychopathy, defining the quarantine vector within which compassionate empaths marry psychopathic psychological procedures that are useful for handling threats and abuse. We really need to understand the main role of empathy in the dark triad, just because it relates to crucial aspects, including aggression, personal and professional performance, and well-being. Research has not systematically looked at the role of empathy in the dark triad, or whether there is a compassionate version of the dark triad, a dark empath. To investigate this possibility, researchers from Nottingham Trent University in the UK performed studies of 991 participants in their early 20s to 30s and about 30% male. They completed the following. Dark traits. The dark triad of personality scale to measure Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy, together with the narcissistic personality inventory to look at grand narcissism, the 5-factor narcissism inventory to gauge susceptible narcissism, the Levinson self-report psychopathy scale, estimating absence of care and callousness, impulsivity, and antisocial tendencies, and the Machiavellianism scale, looking at attitudes about humanity, moral shortage, and manipulativeness. Empathy. The question of cognitive and affective compassion, to look at elements of cognitive empathy, including perspective taking, and the capability to imagine others' inner worlds in real time, online simulation, and affective empathy, including but not limited to immediately mimicking others' emotions, emotional contagion, reacting to other people's emotional signals, proximal responsivity, and reacting to the psychological tone in different settings, peripheral responsivity. Big Five personality. The 5-element personality model, gauged with the International Personality Item Pool, to approximate openness to new experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Relational aggressiveness. Using the indirect hostility scale, individuals suggested where they landed on 3 scales for tendency to socially exclude others, social exemption, the application of mean-spirited humor, harmful humor, and how much they try to make others guilt induction. Depression, stress, and anxiety. Using the depression, anxiety, and stress scale to look at psychological well-being. Capability to enjoy life. Gauging anhedonia using the motivation and enjoyment scale, examining social, professional, and recreational enjoyment, drive for closeness, and motivation to take part in activities. Self-criticism. Gauged with subscales of the self-compassion scale to look at self-judgment and over-identification with negative self-evaluations. It takes all kinds. Why would there be dark empaths? Presumably, dark qualities communicate evolutionary benefit. Otherwise, they would not be as common as they are. People who have the ability to control and exploit others, and who are able to deploy demented thinking, have a benefit sometimes. They could be critical for community survival, providing a contingent freed from inhibition, higher in aggression, able to focus in and get the job done. It's a fragile balance, as too much dark triad damages groups from within their own ranks. Dark empaths have a higher ability to make sense of others' intents and needs, to help make choices while maintaining the ability to engage adaptive psychopathy when needed, paralleling the relationship between empaths and typicals. The 4 groups together may offer checks and balances to sustain a dynamically adaptive community. Dark compassion will resonate for the ones who have observed both dark qualities and empathy in themselves and others, but can't totally connect with the traditional dark triad. Greater empathy combined with dark qualities might protect relationship quality while also allowing access to empathic information to farther less savory machinations, the best of both worlds. Chapter 9. The 10 Characteristics Empathic People Share. The trademark of an empath is feeling and taking in other individuals' emotions and/or physical symptoms because of their high feelings. Those people filter the world through their intuition and have a hard time intellectualizing their feelings. As a psychiatrist and empath, I know the challenges of being a highly sensitive person. When overwhelmed with the effect of demanding feelings, empaths could experience panic attacks, depression, chronic tiredness, food, sex, and drug binges, or show a lot of other physical signs that defy standard analysis. But empaths can also learn how to center themselves so they don't feel too much or end up being overloaded. The first step is to acknowledge that you are an empath. Here are the leading 10 qualities of an empath. Just take a look and see if you can relate. 1. Empaths are highly sensitive. Empaths are naturally giving people, spiritually open, and great listeners. If you want heart, empaths have got it. Through thick and thin, these first-rate nurturers will be there for you. However, they can quickly have their emotions hurt too. Empaths are typically told that they're too sensitive and need to toughen up. 2. Empaths soak up other people's emotions. Empaths are highly attuned to other people's moods, good and bad. They feel every little thing, at times to an extreme. They take on negativity like anger or anxiety, which can be tiring for them. If they are around peace and love, however, their bodies take these on and flourish. 3. Many empaths are reclusive. Empaths end up being overwhelmed in crowds, which can magnify their empathy. They tend to be introverted and choose one-to-one contact or little groups. Even when an empath is more extroverted, they could choose to restrict how much time they spend in a crowd or at a party. 4. Empaths are highly instinctive. Empaths experience the world through their instinct. It is very important for them to develop their intuition and listen to their gut feelings about people. That helps empaths find positive relationships and keep away from energy vampires. 5. Empaths need alone time. As super responders, empaths find being around people can be draining, so they occasionally need time alone to recharge. Even a brief escape prevents emotional overload. This is an example. Empaths like to take their own vehicles when they go places, so they can leave when they please. 6. Empaths can end up being overloaded in intimate relationships. Way too much togetherness can be tough for an empath, so they might avoid intimate relationships. Deep down, they are afraid of being engulfed and losing their identity. For empaths to be at ease in a relationship, the traditional paradigm for being a couple must be redefined. 7. Empaths are targets for energy vampires. An empath's sensitivity makes him or her specifically easy marks for energy parasites, whose fear or rage can sap their energy and peace of mind. These predators might do more than drain an empath's physical energy. Specifically unsafe ones like narcissists, who lack empathy and are only worried about themselves, can make empaths actually believe they are unworthy and unlovable. Other vampires include the victim, the persistent talker, the drama queen, and more. 8. Empaths become replenished in nature. The busyness of daily life can be too much for an empath. The natural world nourishes and restores them. It helps them release their concerns, and they can take sanctuary in the presence of green, wild things, the ocean, or other bodies of water. 9. Empaths have highly tuned senses. An empath's nerves can get frayed by noise, smells, or excessive talking. 10. Empaths have substantial hearts, but sometimes give too much. Empaths are big-hearted people and try to alleviate the pain of others. A homeless individual holding a cardboard "I'm hungry" sign at a hectic crossway. A hurt child, or a troubled good friend. It's natural to want to connect to these people and ease their pain. But empaths do not stop there. Rather, they take it on. Suddenly, they're the one feeling drained or upset when they have felt fine before. As an empath, I use many strategies to protect my sensitivities, like intense time management, setting limitations with people who are draining, meditation to relax and focus myself, and heading out into nature. I find being an empath a gift, but I had to learn how to take care of myself. Empaths have unique needs. If you are among us, it is necessary to honor your needs and communicate them to your loved ones. This has been Empath: Relationships, Empathy, and Dark Psychology. Written by Camelia Henson. Narrated by Samantha Novak. Copyright year 2020 by Camelia Henson. Production copyright by Camelia Henson. Empath: Surviving in a World of Noise and Insensitivity. Written by Camelia Henson. Narrated by Samantha Novak. Chapter 1. Do you have empathy, or are you an empath? Simply because you show some empathy does not necessarily mean you're an empath. We have all heard about empathy and maybe consider ourselves to be compassionate people. Empathy means being in tune to other people's emotions and life situations. A compassionate person could be moved by a scenario in a sort of heart-tugging, emotional way that ultimately generates kind, caring, and understanding words and actions. For instance, it has to do with extending a suitable reaction when a person loses a job, or expressing excitement when a good friend announces her pregnancy, even if both are circumstances that might have never impacted you personally. A New Yorker article mentions that empathy is a making of the German Einfühlung, or a feeling into, that involves the ethical implications of feeling our way into the lives of others. Then there is being an empath, which describes a person who takes empathy a considerable step farther. An empath is able to literally feel and handle other individuals' feelings as though they are experiencing those emotions themselves. So, can you conclude that having empathy instantly suggests that you are an empath? After all, most compassionate people or empaths feel deeply for other people's obstacles and successes. Does this really make them empaths? The short answer, yes and no. Being an empath is all about having empathy, but on an entirely deeper level, explains Judith Orloff, MD, author of The Empath Survival Guide, Life Techniques for Sensitive Individuals. In essence, Orloff clarifies, empaths feel on a much more powerful level than empathetic people. Take her test to see if you happen to be undoubtedly an empath. The difference between empathy and being an empath. She distinguishes between regular empathy, in which an individual's heart goes out to another, and being an empath, in which those feelings exist on a much higher spectrum. Empaths not only feel for others, but soak up those feelings in their own system, says Orloff, whose private practice is in Santa Monica, California. In addition, empaths are usually able to detect unspoken feelings as well, making use of subtle energy fields that originate around other people's bodies. Energy absorption takes place, and a strong noticing experience starts. Depending on the kind of energy, whether around a cheerful, happy individual or around a fearful, anxiety-ridden individual, an empath will feel deeply, often experiencing shifts in state of mind and energy levels. Obviously, this pleads the question of how an empath can take care of themselves. After all, in addition to experiencing their own emotions, they are absorbing other individuals' emotions. This can take a toll on them, especially in circumstances that leave them drained. Orloff clarifies that it's not uncommon for empaths to experience a myriad of physical signs, as they handle so many intense feelings, and that includes stomach and headaches. How empaths can care for themselves. 1. Distinguish between your emotions and everyone else's. Orloff clarifies that it's essential for empaths to take a step back when interacting with others to determine whether what they're feeling is coming from their own feelings or that of others. I always ask patients to ask themselves, is the emotion mine or that of another individual? She says. It is necessary to learn more about and listen to your body. Recognizing how you feel previously and after interactions is key. 2. Enjoy being an empath. Sure, you are soaking up a lot of emotion in addition to managing your own, but that is usually an advantage. I would not give up being an empath for anything, Orloff states. She says that empaths are often filled with generosity and compassion, are gifted, feel a deep connection to animals and the earth, form deep friendships, enjoy nature, and value intimate discussions. Empaths, she adds, are supporting people who enjoy helping others and want to see others happier. She also advises not focusing on the many negative myths that typically surround empaths, such as people who say they're being too sensitive or need to develop a thicker skin. Embrace who you are and ignore negative words from other people who may not totally comprehend and really appreciate the way you experience things so deeply. 3. However, be aware of toxic relationships and other issues. While empaths enjoy helping others, sometimes people-pleasing habits develop, or they end up being codependent, says Orloff. One common relationship she sees form is between an empath and a narcissist. A narcissist, who deals with empathy deficit disorder, gravitates to those who nurture and provide attention. Meanwhile, an empath succumbs to the charm of a narcissist, who eventually ends up being cold and withholding. Narcissists who are particularly reliable at winning the love and praise of others could also leave a path of damaged relationships behind them once they have been found out, writes Suzanne Deggs-White. Yet, the caring nature of an empath makes them truly want to heal that cold, uncaring personality, creating an ongoing, out-of-balance psychological cycle between the two. 4. Set boundaries. Practice self-care. It is really common for empaths to be extremely respectful and want others to be so happy that they sacrifice their own wellness, Orloff says. Set healthy boundaries and participate in time management methods, like not overbooking yourself, she suggests. Try meditation practices each day to relax and focus yourself, and be sure to get out in nature frequently too. Nature offers empaths a connection with animals and the earth that is not shallow, she notes, which helps bring back a sense of calm. 5. Get in touch with other empaths. Enjoy getting in touch with other empaths from the convenience of your own home. Join Orloff's Facebook group, Dr. Orloff Empath Support Community. There, you'll be able to read what some 13,000, since this writing, other empaths experience, ask questions, and take part in intriguing conversations. In short, empaths regularly absorb energy from other individuals, experiencing feelings on a level that transcends having empathy. While being an empath can be satisfying, it's important to put in the time to practice self-care. See the difference between your own feelings and that of others, and to connect with other empaths. Chapter 2. Tips for Raising Empathic Kids. Have nerve systems that react more quickly and highly to external stimuli, including stress. I typically emphasize that empath kids feel way too much, but do not know how to manage the sensory overload. They see more, hear more, smell more, intuit more, and experience emotions more. An example would be the following. They might not like strong food smells in the kitchen area, fragrances, harsh bright lights, particularly fluorescent bulbs, or loud talking. They prefer soft, not scratchy clothes, beauty, nature, and having one or a few friends instead of many associates. Their feelings can get assaulted by our coarse world, and this influences their conduct. Since most compassionate kids cannot articulate the reason for their upset, informed parents or caregivers can help them determine triggers and offer the solutions I'm going to present below to eliminate their distress. As parents, you need to know what overstimulates your empathic children and keep away from those activities. Doing so soothes them and wards off fatigue, tantrums, and anxiety. Common triggers include excessive busyness, such as overscheduling their day without breaks, multitasking, no alone time, and violent TV programs or newscasts, specifically during the night. Following exposure to any of these elements, kids might find it harder to drop off to sleep and need more downtime before bed to relax. And sensitive children might take more time to cool down in the evening than other kids, since their systems are slower to transition from stimulation to quiet. Also, empathic kids can feel and absorb other people's psychological pain, especially from parents or caretakers and friends. Because they're super responders, their hurts cut them deeply, and their delights are extra joyous. Compassionate children don't have the same mechanisms as non-empath children to screen out light, noise, and the turmoil of crowds, for instance, a big sports event. Cheering, clapping, and booing can feel jarring, even unpleasant to them. Nor do they respond well to loud music, honking, hammering, or power tools. These noises upset them instead of the tranquil influence of birds chirping, water aspects, or gentle wind chimes. Compassionate kids may cry more and cope by pulling away into solitude to self-regulate sensory overload. Usually, civilization or schools do not give these remarkable kids much understanding. Traditional physicians and instructors often identify them as shy, antisocial, or fussy, or they're identified with social phobia, an anxiety disorder, or depression. Apart from this, they could be quieter, thoughtful, deep, and gentle rather than highly verbal or assertive, which others can view as withdrawn. Because of these misconceptions, your role is critical in supporting their sensitive feelings, instinct, creative skill, knowledge, and in teaching them tools to cope with the world. As a compassionate child, I got no support from my physician parents about my vulnerable feelings. Not because they did not love me, but because they didn't know what an empath was and were never ever taught how to comprehend my unique needs. They really wanted me to be happy, but they didn't think encouraging my sensitivities would lead me there. They called me excessively sensitive and said that I needed a thicker skin. These helpful remarks made me believe there was something wrong with me. Due to the fact that I felt misunderstood and invisible as a compassionate child, I have become especially passionate about educating parents about raising their compassionate kids. Knowing that your child is an empath is the primary step towards bringing out the best in him or her. And then you can support your son's and daughter's sensitive feelings as an expression of their quality, empathy, and depth. To identify if your kid is an empath, take the following evaluation. Does he or she feel things deeply? Do they get overstimulated by people, crowds, noise, or tension? Do they have a strong response to sad or frightening scenes in books or movies? Do they want to leave and hide from family gatherings simply because there is way too much going on? Do they feel different than other children or grumble about not fitting in? Are they a pretty good listener and thoughtful with others? Do they amaze you with instinctual remarks about others or yourself? Do they have a strong connection to nature, plants, animals, or stuffed animals? Do they require a lot of time alone instead of playing with other kids? Do they handle a friend's tension or upset? Do they take on their own or other individuals' feelings or tension and act out when you're angry, upset, or depressed? Do they have one best friend or several buddies rather than a very large social group? Here's how to score this evaluation. 9 to 12 yes responses indicate this kid has incredibly strong empathic characteristics. 6 to 9 yes responses suggest strong empathic qualities. 4 to 8 yes responses show moderate empathic characteristics. And 1 to 3 yes responses suggest some compassionate traits. 0 yes answers suggest that the kid isn't running mostly as an empath. Empath kids are precious beings. No matter where your kid is on the spectrum, he or she would benefit from being taught to honor his or her particular vulnerable feelings. Chapter 3. The 3 Types of Empathy and What They Mean. You might recall President Bill Clinton's famous quote, "I feel your pain." It suggested that he had empathy and it made him seem more human and in touch with his constituents. Did he really mean it? And is feeling another person's pain an advantage or a bad thing? Psychologist Mark Davis has suggested that there are 3 crucial kinds of empathy. The first is a purely cognitive form of empathy that he terms perspective taking. This is having the ability to see things from another's viewpoint, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. It is essential to better comprehend where someone is coming from, but it is not what we typically consider empathy. A second kind of empathy, and one that's represented actually by Clinton's comment, Davis terms individual distress. Individual distress is actually feeling another's emotions. When you are watching a scary movie and you start to empathize with the hero and feel afraid, that is personal distress in action. You are intensely feeling the other's feeling through a procedure called emotional contagion. The actor or another person is actually contaminating you with their feeling. All of us experience personal distress, but way too much of it could not be an advantage. Many people are so vulnerable to feeling others' emotions that they're battered about by the emotions of others, hence the label of distress. Bill Clinton didn't really mean that he felt a person's pain, or vicariously felt the other's feeling. What he meant was the third kind of empathy, empathic concern. That type is what we most often think about when we hear the term empathy. It is the ability to recognize another's emotion, feel in tune with that emotion, and if it is a negative or distressful feeling, feel and show proper concern. These 3 kinds of empathy represent different elements of our personalities. An individual high in perspective taking may be proficient at understanding other people's viewpoints, but might not get really associated with other people's emotions. An individual high up on personal distress will, as suggested, be susceptible to experience others' emotions, which has good and not so good elements. Years ago, we performed a research study with hospice nurses looking after terminally ill patients. What we found was that having compassionate concern was positively associated with the nurse's efficiency, but personal distress was negatively associated. We surmise that if hospice nurses felt their patients' pain, and family members' distress too, it made them less able to do their job of supplying convenience to the patient and family because they had their own emotions that they had to deal with. In reality, all of us have some level of each of the kinds of empathy. The key is to understand the ways that we are compassionate with others, and to realize the strengths and constraints of each type of empathy. Chapter 4: The Best and Worst Careers for Empaths. Being a delicate empath is a beautiful thing as an artist. Alanis Morissette. As an empath, I know that to excel in and enjoy our work, we must take advantage of our sensitivities. We must reveal our intuition, our consideration, our tranquility, and our creativity instead of trying to be someone we're not. The best professions for an empath. Typically, empaths do better in lower stress, solo jobs, or with smaller businesses. They are typically happiest working part or full-time in the house, away from the office frenzy, noise, politics, and energy vampires. They're much easier to handle by email, text, or phone, just because they are at some distance. In such a job, you can prepare your schedule and plan routine breaks to decompress. A lot of my empath clients prefer being self-employed to stay away from the drain and overwhelm of colleagues, bosses, and loaded schedules. Empaths tend to do better on their own time than with regular team conferences that are needed in large companies, unless the team is uncommonly positive and cohesive. If you're employed by a business, it might be possible to set up a part-time home office and do your work virtually, with continuous access to the internet, emails, texts, and Skype. Progressively, people do not always need to be connected to their office to do their job well, a perk for empaths that allows them to have more choices in their work area. Though if you work at home or alone in a workplace, be careful not to become separated or to push yourself too hard. Balance your alone time with people time among associates and friends. How do these factors to consider translate into real-world jobs? Empaths succeed in being self-employed company owners, authors, editors, healthcare professionals, artists, and in other creative occupations. Most stars and musical artists such as Claire Danes, Alanis Morissette, Scarlett Johansson, and Jim Carrey have confessed to being highly sensitive. Other good jobs include site and graphic designers, virtual assistants, accounting professionals or legal representatives with office, or independent electrical contractors and plumbers who can set their own appointments. Being a property representative or roving organization consultant can be fine as well, provided that you establish good boundaries regarding when you can be reached and don't overschedule yourself. Landscape design, gardening, forest ranger work, or other work that puts you in nature are wonderful for empaths, as are jobs preserving the earth and her environments. Many empaths also get into helping occupations because of their desire to serve others. As a psychiatrist, I get great satisfaction from helping my patients, as long as I can look after myself and do not soak up the stress from my patients. Similarly, many empaths become physicians, nurses, dental experts, physical therapists, psychotherapists, social workers, teachers, yoga trainers, Chinese doctors, massage therapists, clergy, hospice workers, life coaches, or volunteers or employees of nonprofit companies, to name a few heartfelt jobs. Working with animals, animal rescue, dog grooming, and also veterinary medicine are pleasing decisions also. Though, to grow, empaths in the helping professions should learn how to stop handling the stress and symptoms of their patients and clients. They can do this by scheduling breaks between clients to practice meditation, set clear limits with people, and take sufficient time outside of work to unwind and refuel. Still, jobs like being a police officer or firefighter though usually brave, may be too demanding for an empath, simply because of the high sensory stimulation and continuous physical and psychological trauma that is fundamental in these careers. Empaths are important to all types of professions, though you really need to find the right work that supports your skills, temperament, and gifts. An empath's attributes might not be as valued in places such as corporations, academic community, professional sports, the army, or the government. A much better match could be from helping occupations, the arts, and companies with more humanistic awareness. So, when you're considering a job, use your intuition to sense if you're a very good fit with their objective and shared goals, the people, the space, and the energy of the environment. Just because a job looks good on paper doesn't mean it's right for you. It needs to feel right in your body and gut also. Jobs to stay away from if you're an empath. One of the best ways to look after yourself is to choose work that enhances your special empathic gifts and keep away from draining pipe jobs. What jobs are best to keep away from? Working in sales is high on that list. Not many empaths enjoy being salesmen, particularly if they're introverted. Dealing with the general public takes too much out of them. One patient who worked in technical support said, "I was too vulnerable to constantly handle upset clients, even if they were right." Also, empaths absorb people's emotions and tension, which can make them sick. One man said, "Being a cashier at Walmart almost gave me a stress and anxiety attack. The crowds, the sounds of people talking, loudspeakers, bright lights, and long hours were exhausting." Whether it is selling automobiles, diamond rings, or marketing, empaths do not normally feel well having to be on throughout the day. Other difficult professions for empaths include public relations, politics, executives who manage big groups, and being a trial lawyer. These high-intensity professions value extroversion, the capability to participate in little talk, and aggressiveness instead of being thoughtful, soft-spoken, sensitive, and reflective. The mainstream business world is bothersome as well. The corporate mentality of "this is how it's done" is difficult for empaths, including myself. This response has always disappointed me because there's absolutely nowhere to go with it, and it clearly doesn't value an individual's needs. Empaths are independent thinkers and question the status quo at work if it does not feel right. They like to know the reasoning behind a choice, so they understand it in their gut. Besides, routine team conferences and power-hungry teammates are draining pipes for empaths, who work better by themselves. Even if your job is not ideal and you can't leave, you can improvise to find solutions that make your situation more comfortable. When empaths are happy at work, they can flourish and make essential contributions to their occupations. Chapter 5. How to know if you are a sexual empath. For empaths and sensitive people, sexuality is an essential topic to get clear about, whether you're single, dating, or in a long-term relationship. As I talk about in the Empath Survival Guide, simply because empaths are so sensitive, there's no such thing as a one-night stand. During lovemaking, empaths can pick up both anxiety and happiness from our sexual partner, and typically get instincts about his or her thoughts and emotions. For that reason, choose your partner sensibly. If this is not the case, then throughout lovemaking, you can take in toxic energy, stress, or fear. That is particularly true if you are a sexual empath. What is a sexual empath? A person whose compassionate capabilities heighten throughout an erotic encounter so that he or she senses more tension or bliss. Sexual empaths are highly sensitive at the time of lovemaking and flirting too. They can pick up a partner's energy much more than other empaths can. For all empaths, especially the sexual type, to feel their best, they must share physical intimacy with the right individual who can respond with some love and respect. Regrettably, some of my empath clients have made errors when they've been without a partner for a very long time. If somebody shows up who sparks their sexuality, they're so eager to get into a relationship, they disregard instinctual signs. So they participate in a sexual relationship early on with a person who is a poor choice. They are worried that because it has taken so long to find someone who is even remotely interesting, they'd better get included, regardless of the warning. We open ourselves to hurt by being excessively attached to unavailable people who cannot really love us back. One particular empath told me, "I haven't been in a serious relationship in 5 years, but when I've dated men with whom I was quick and furious in love, I became this love-crazed individual. I didn't listen to the indications and was disappointed. Yet now, I go slower to make sure the person is readily available." One resolution to simply waiting for a partner to appear is going to a Tantra workshop or having personal sessions with a tantric instructor. Tantra is an ancient practice that integrates sexuality and spirituality via body-centered exercises. In personal or group circumstances, you'll be taught to tune into your body, utilize your sexuality and spirituality, and work through old injuries, destructive relationship patterns, or numbness that stops you from feeling. These sessions increase your sexuality and keep it flowing to maximize your powers of attraction, instead of allowing this energy to go inactive throughout the waiting period. Others might not feel how sexy you are if that happens. Some years ago, I experienced some important tantric sessions after I ended up being involved with the wrong individual too quickly. I wanted to address any blocks that contributed to my pattern of choosing not available men or having extended periods of aloneness. But I was tired of talking about this with my psychotherapist. So instead, these additional sessions helped me open up and attract a suitable partner. Once you have found a partner who is well matched with you, the basis for intimacy is to combine your heart with your sexuality. Empaths thrive in this way. When sex, spirit, and heart are integrated in lovemaking, it is sublimely supporting to our system. Part of keeping heart-centered sexuality is learning to set limitations with your partner if something about your encounter feels off. For example, if your partner had a discouraging day and is upset, it might not be the best time to be sexual because empaths can absorb this anger. Have a frank conversation about this. Your partner needs to understand why you're picking not to be intimate when he or she is mad or under severe stress. Inform your mate about your feelings. Unless you're in a relationship with an empath, you'll really need to adoringly explain your reactions so that your partner can meet your needs. The empath universe is different than the non-empath one. Your compassion and patience will make all the difference in your nearness. Chapter 6. Why Emotional Empaths Stay Lonely. Loneliness gets to some more than others. Yet why it hangs on isn't always evident when read by conventional medical eyes. In my medical practice and workshops, I have been struck by how many sensitive, empathic people who I call emotional empaths come to me lonesome, wanting a romantic partner, yet remaining single for several years. Otherwise, they're in relationships but feel continuously fatigued and overwhelmed. The reason is not just that there aren't enough mentally readily available people out there, nor is their burnout aberrant. Personally and expertly, I have found that something more is going on. Emotional empaths are a species unto themselves. Whereas others might prosper on the togetherness of being a couple, for empaths like me, too much togetherness can be hard and could cause us to bolt. We tend to intuit and absorb our partner's energy and end up being overloaded, restless, or exhausted when we do not have time to decompress in our own space. We're super responders. Our sensory experience of a relationship is the same as feeling things with 50 fingers rather than 5. Energetically sensitive people unconsciously keep away from romantic partnership because deep down they hesitate getting swallowed up, or else they feel engulfed when paired, a nerve-wracking, constrictive way to live. If this is not comprehended, empaths can stay constantly lonely. We want companionship, but paradoxically, it does not feel safe. For emotional empaths to be at ease in a relationship, the standard paradigm for coupling should be redefined. Most of all, this means asserting your personal space needs, the physical and time limits you set with someone so you do not feel they are on top of you. Empaths cannot fully experience psychological freedom with another till they do this. Your space needs can differ with your situation, upbringing, and culture. My ideal distance to keep in public is at least an arm's length. In physicians' waiting spaces, I am going to stack my bag and folders on the seats next to me to keep others away. With friends, it has to do with half that. With a mate, it varies. Sometimes it's rapture being covered in his arms. Later, I may need to be in a room of my own, shut away. All of us have an invisible, energetic border that sets a comfort level. Determining and interacting with yours will prevent you from being bled dry by others. Then intimacy can thrive, even if you have felt suffocated before. If you're an empath, or if the regular expectations of coupledom don't jive with you, practice the following pointers. Tips for empaths to feel at ease in a relationship. Pointer 1. What to say to a prospective mate. As you are learning more about a person, share that you're a sensitive person, that you occasionally need silent time. The right partner will be understanding. The wrong individual will put you down for being extremely sensitive and will not appreciate your need. Pointer 2. Clarify your favored sleep style. Generally, partners sleep in the same bed. Nonetheless, some empaths never ever get used to this, no matter how caring a mate. Absolutely nothing personal, they like their own sleep space. Speak out about your choices. Feeling caught in bed with somebody and not getting a very good night's rest is abuse. Energy fields mix throughout sleep, which can overstimulate empaths. So go over alternatives with your mate. Because non-empaths may feel lonely sleeping alone, make compromises when possible. Pointer 3. Negotiate your privacy needs. You might be delighted about your beloved until you live together. Try out creative living conditions so your home isn't a jail. Breathing room is obligatory. Ask yourself, what space arrangements are optimal? Having a region to pull back to, even if it's a closet, a space divider, separate restrooms, separate houses. I prefer having my own bedroom or office to retreat to. Pointer 4. Travel sensibly. Traveling with somebody, you may want to have a separate space too. If sharing a space is the only alternative, having a sheet as a space divider will help. Out of sight could make the heart grow fonder. Pointer 5. Take regular mini breaks. Empaths require personal downtime to regroup. Even a brief escape avoids emotional overload. Retreat for 5 minutes into the bathroom with the door shut. Take a stroll around the block. Read in a separate room. In my medical practice, I have seen this creative technique to relationships save marriages and make ongoing intimacies feel safe, even for emotional empaths of all ages who've been lonesome and haven't had a long-term partner before. Once you're able to articulate your needs, psychological flexibility in your relationships is possible. Chapter 7. Practice empathic parenting to help cultivate healthy anger. While the news media seems to significantly report occurrences of child and adolescent violence, much more often, kids and teens who have troubles with anger might display bullying, underachievement, substance abuse, excessive guilt or shame, or intense anxiety connected to mismanaged anger. And research continues to highlight that anger which culminates in these troubles and violence happens more frequently when kids and teens lack a compassionate connection in their relationships, with others and with themselves. While some kids and teens may attain this connection with peers and others, it is the parent-child connection that can most highly impact how they manage tension, conflict, and anger. By connection, I mean a relationship that actively and openly nurtures their capability for checking out, sharing, and discussing their internal landscape. This includes supporting self-reflection concerning their thoughts and emotions, specifically their fears and their passions. Such connection offers empathy and, through modeling, teaches a child to be empathic. Compassion includes listening without judgment and letting your child know that you can comprehend his experience. Such empathy verifies your child's feelings, and it helps your kid to more freely and completely explore his or her thoughts and emotions, rather than acting upon them. This connection promotes the capability for stopping briefly to show, instead of react to, anger. Being empathic doesn't mean approval of or tolerance for what you consider as inappropriate conduct. Such a connection helps your child to honor his thoughts and feelings. Further, empathic connection offers him support in learning more about himself and to free energy that may otherwise be wasted in decreasing, hiding from, or rejecting parts of himself. As such, it is an antidote for suppression and denial that may make him more susceptible to anger. The obstacle for each parent is to be mindful to promote and support this type of connection. Naturally, even the most caring and well-meaning parent could not be regularly available to truly connect with his or her kid. It's a difficulty that usually competes with time needs, the demands of a profession, and trying to provide the basics. Similarly, the pressures of being a single parent might compete with promoting such a connection. Maybe the most essential impact on the connection you form with your child is your personal history with receiving empathy and with being empathic. Your own self-reflection and convenience with your thoughts and feelings will very much influence your connection with your child and their connection with themselves. The following guidelines determine key parts of concern if you wish to form a more significant and encouraging connection with your child. By doing so, you'll help him become more resilient in handling negative emotions and the reactivity that makes one susceptible to anger. Work at being compassionate with yourself. Validating our own emotions and needs helps us to become empathic with others, including our children. Plus, doing that helps us to feel more human, and doing so reminds us that our feelings supply us with valuable information if we take time to listen to them. Increasing our emotional intelligence is basic to helping our children with cultivating healthy anger. 3 of the abilities of emotional intelligence are: 1. Having the ability to better recognize and distinguish our emotions. 2. Being able to be self-soothing and regulate our negative feelings. And 3. Having the ability to recognize feelings in others. By discussing your emotions with your child, you set an example and give your kid consent to share his or her feelings. I am not suggesting that you share emotions inappropriately, like associating with your kid as a confidant or straining them with your needs. And remember, way too much sharing of your own pain may only cause your child to be extremely empathic, too quick to be overwhelmed by the feelings of others. Rather, discussing your emotions about work, a motion picture, the news, or, most importantly, feelings about him or her, all add to greater liberty for emotional approval. Stress that self-reflection is positive for healthy psychological development. The more comfortable we are in looking inward, the more our child will value self-reflection. Self-reflection doesn't suggest self-absorption or involve obsessive rumination. Rather, it accentuates a search to comprehend ourselves more completely, our thoughts, feelings, and conduct. It helps us to more clearly make decisions and behave in ways that reflect our values and who we wish to end up being. Learn to conveniently talk about dispute with your child or teen. Having the ability to help your kid manage anger very much depends upon your ability to sit with the discomfort of dispute. This could include your self-reflection to recognize unrealistic expectations you have concerning your child. Or it may consist of more obviously determining how you feel threatened by such conflict. Be conscious to how your sensitivity to dispute may hinder your ability to listen to your child and to set limitations where indicated. Your worry about frustrating him or being the target of his anger might only weaken your capacity to discuss a conflict, yet alone set limitations on his behavior when shown. Make a dedication to be empathic. Being compassionate may not always be simple, particularly when you are challenged to sit and listen to a child who is expressing thoughts and feelings that may be opposed to your own, challenge your values, appear totally impractical, or make you uncomfortable. This is a time to remind yourself that feelings are separate from conduct. Being compassionate might be specifically challenging for you if you have past wounds that have not been totally mourned. Those might lead you to decrease your need for empathy and, subsequently, make you less available to give it. Furthermore, you could have had a history that lessened your need for empathy and has led you to conclude that empathy and compassion show weakness. Make every effort to be consistent. This does not mean that you're going to always be compassionate. Rather, it requires your being conscious to cultivate an empathic connection. Plus, when you fail at being compassionate, it is important to recall that you can always acknowledge this later on. In spite of thinking that the moment has passed, it can be incredibly important to share your intent and, at times, your failure to be empathic. Be open to discovering yourself. Self-reflection and self-knowledge boost your connection with yourself and your capacity to develop a richer and more satisfying connection with your child. And it consequently helps your kid to cultivate a much healthier self-connection also. Self-reflection is essential for healthy anger management, and it is the basis on which we can more freely choose how we wish to live our lives. Actively seek out activities to help your child foster empathy. In the last few years, a broad variety of methods have been determined that help kids to cultivate empathy for others and themselves. For instance, some key approaches to help kids foster empathy can be found in the resources listed at the end of this short article. Handling our own anger as a caretaker and that of our kid is a specifically challenging job. It requires that we cultivate a more compassionate connection with ourselves and with our children. And through such connections, we provide our kids a foundation on which to cultivate healthy anger. Chapter 8. How to Help an Empath. An empathic person feels deeply for others. They do not feel sorry for people. They actually feel the emotional pain somebody else is experiencing. Lots of the time, there is little effort involved. It's automatic, like an intuition. Yet walking this earth feeling other people's pain can be frustrating. Making good sense and managing one's own emotional pain is cumbersome, so reflexively feeling the suffering of others is furthermore challenging. In first grade, I remember a shy and silent schoolmate, William. One early morning, William wet his pants at his desk. I felt his embarrassment deeply. I wanted to run to him, protect him from the gaze of our schoolmates, and give him a hug. I still feel his psychological pain like a punch to my stomach as I remember that moment. Other kids chuckled and snickered, but I was impacted for the rest of the day. Thankfully, I had a mother who was naturally skilled at helping her deeply sensitive kid. So when I arrived home from school, she was normally ready to listen, which helped. As I got older, I sensed my capacity for empathy was both a gift and a curse. I readily connected with and comprehended others, and I had a deep psychological constitution, so I mastered subjects like English and psychology. Today, I am a psychotherapist, which means I feel for the plight of others for a living. It's my job to truly comprehend and interpret individuals' emotions and experiences. My ability to have empathy allows me to recover. For 8 hours a day, I expose myself to other people's pain. I rarely feel overwhelmed, scorched out, or fatigued by it. I love my job, and I'm usually rejuvenated when I leave the office. Yet, if I watch the news for 15 minutes, I am taken apart. When I see humans in distress and I am powerless to help, I'm devastated. My delight is zapped, and I feel discouraged and restless. Thus, the crucial difference. When an empath can help heal others with their empathy, they fly, naturally radiating empathy and mankind, an empathy that can greatly change the world for the better. However, when an empath experiences intense empathy for others and cannot help, they in some cases feel sorrow and anxiety for hours. Temporarily, they are less able to function gladly and productively in the world. If you are an empath, be discriminating. If you include yourself with dehumanizing material, do so with care. Guarantee you are in a position to help and heal. If you are the parent of a deep and compassionate soul, don't needlessly expose them to dehumanizing content. Avoid certain films, news, and material with graphic content. Rather, inquire if they have questions about what is going on in the world, and answer those questions thoughtfully. Filtering and helping them digest the graphic and dehumanizing material safeguards them. Also, listen to your kid when they approach you because they are upset about something that occurred in their world. Avoid saying, "You're too sensitive." Instead, say, "You hurt for your friend. I get it. You care. That makes you a great individual." If you are an adult empath, make sure you have another empath in your world to speak with. Allow them to help you carry the upsetting emotions. This is what good friends and loved ones are for. Remember, empaths aren't bleeding hearts, enablers, or weak. Sympathizers or enablers seldom feel another individual's pain. Actually, they avoid that discomfort by attempting to help through other means, yet they mostly remain emotionally detached from the situation. It is essential to remember that detachment is necessary when interacting with an individual with a personality disorder, but in most other cases, specifically parenting, it perpetuates either a sense of privilege or psychological distance in others. For example, a parent who sympathizes or enables would call the coach to demand a significant change be made after their child is benched at a hockey game. Sadly, this approach creates a victim mindset in the child. On the other hand, a parent who understands goes to where their kid is at emotionally. They allow themselves to feel their child's hurt, to understand how they feel, and then they have the ability to understand. "You are so disappointed. I get it. I would be too, pal. Keep working hard and practice. Things may change." With empathy, the kid immediately feels understood and less alone because their parent gets it. The kid feels bonded and near to the parent. Empathy alters a kid's brain by creating good vagal tone in the vagus nerve, relaxing their body and mind. It produces calmness, security, and durability, which directly translates into a strong work ethic. Compassion, on the other hand, creates a sense of entitlement. In addition, empathy needs a depth of feeling that lots of people lack. Deep emotion seems to work together with bravery and selflessness. Empaths, when put in the position to heal, might be the greatest people around. Chapter 9. Empath Warriors. Empaths have strengths that are fantastic to develop. Those include compassion, intuition, depth, and a deep connection to other people and the earth. The world needs your gifts more than ever. What is a warrior empath? Here are some attributes of it. You know yourself enough to practice self-care. You have a toolkit of techniques that you can use frequently to stay strong and thrive. You mindfully use these strategies to stop taking in other individuals' stress. Empaths with tactical, energy-saving tools are unstoppable. To support my warrior spirit, I use these 5 strategies every day. Warrior empath tools. 1. Express appreciation. Start every day with a gratefulness affirmation instead of concentrating on all the things you have to do. Thankfulness increases positive energy and keeps you in the moment instead of losing energy by catastrophizing about the future. 2. Meditate. Practice the 3-minute heart meditation throughout the day to stay focused. This short meditation works marvels, bringing you back to your power when you start to feel sensory overload. That meditation reinforces you and makes you in charge of your emotion. 3. Mindful breathing. Breathe out negativity and stress, and take in clarity and power. The breath is your good friend. To be a warrior, it's valuable to keep breathing throughout the day. This stops the accumulation of stress in your body. 4. Strengthen your intuition. Trust your intuition to choose positive people in your inner circle. Keep the energy vampires out when possible. Intuition will tell you when your energy has increased or decreased around somebody. Pay more attention to this info. Stick to the people who increase your energy. Learn to set clear limits with those who drain you. 5. Love yourself. You are a precious being. Remember that. Let your day-to-day mantra be, I embrace my feelings. I can be susceptible and strong at the same time. The empath journey is an experience of a lifetime. As a delicate individual, there's much to be grateful for. You have the ability to experience elegant passion and pleasure. You can view the big picture on a much deeper level. You are attuned to the attractiveness, poetry, and energy of life. Your empathy gives you the capability to help others. You aren't callous or shut off or cold-hearted. Your vulnerable feelings enable you to be a caring, susceptible, and mindful being. Notice how your own life and relationships enhance from embracing your warrior spirit as an empath. Celebrate your progress each time you listen to your intuition or assert your compassionate needs, or have the ability to center yourself in the middle of chaos. Celebrate that you're no longer willing to deny your own emotions, just to make other individuals comfortable. Celebrate your capability to really love your lovely self today without dispute or second-guessing. Be grateful for all of your development. Baby steps are golden. Don't stress if you backslide sometimes. All of us do. In each situation, treat yourself with empathy. This has been Empath, Surviving in a World of Noise and Insensitivity. Written by Camelia Henson. Narrated by Samantha Novak. Copyright year 2020 by Camelia Henson. Production copyright by Camelia Henson. Empath, a survival guide for healing and recovery. Written by Camelia Henson. Narrated by Samantha Novak. Chapter 1. The Science Behind Empaths and Empathy. 5 scientific research studies on the phenomenon show how empathy works. As a psychiatrist and an empath, I'm interested by how the phenomenon of empathy works. I feel enthusiastic that empathy is the medicine the world needs right now. Empathy is when we reach our hearts out to others and put ourselves in their shoes. Still, being an empath goes even further. Like lots of my clients and myself, empaths are people who are high on the compassionate spectrum and actually feel what is going on in others in their own bodies. As a result, empaths can have amazing compassion for many people, but they often get exhausted from feeling way too much, unless they develop methods to safeguard their feelings and develop healthy limits. I will now talk about the following appealing scientific explanations of empathy and empaths. Those will help us more deeply comprehend the power of empathy so we can make use of and honor it in our lives. 1. The mirror neuron system. Researchers have discovered a customized group of brain cells that are responsible for compassion. These cells allow everybody to mirror feelings, to share another individual's pain, fear, or happiness. Due to the fact that empaths are thought to have hyper-responsive mirror neurons, we deeply resonate with other individuals' emotions. How does this occur? Mirror neurons are set off by outside events. This is an example. Our partner gets hurt. We feel hurt too. Our child is sobbing, and we feel miserable as well. Our good friend is happy, so we feel happy as well. On the other hand, psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists are thought to have empathy deficiency. This means that they lack the ability to feel empathy like other people do, which could be brought on by an underactive mirror neuron system. We must be careful of these people because they're incapable of unconditional love. 2. Electromagnetic fields. The second finding is based upon the fact that both the brain and the heart generate electromagnetic fields. According to the HeartMath Institute, these fields transmit information about individuals' thoughts and feelings. Empaths might be especially susceptible to this input and tend to become overwhelmed by it. Likewise, we usually have more powerful physical and psychological reactions to changes in the earth and sun. Empaths know well that what happens to the earth and sun impacts our mindset and energy. Similarly, we typically have more powerful physical and psychological responses to changes in the electromagnetic fields of the earth and sun. Empaths understand that what happens to the earth and sun influences our frame of mind and energy. 3. Emotional contagion. The third finding that boosts our grasp of empaths is the phenomena of emotional contagion. Research has shown that lots of people pick up the feelings of those around them. This could be, one weeping baby will set off a wave of weeping in a medical facility ward, or one person loudly expressing anxiety in the work environment can spread it to other workers. Individuals commonly catch other people's feelings in groups. A current New York Times article mentioned that this capability to synchronize moods with others is crucial for good relationships. What is the lesson for empaths? To choose for positive individuals in our lives so we are not brought down by negativity. Or if, say, a friend is going through a hard time, take special safety measures to ground and center yourself. These are essential methods you'll learn. 4. Increase dopamine sensitivity. The fourth finding includes dopamine, a neurotransmitter that increases the activity of neurons and is related to the enjoyment response. Research has revealed that introverted empaths tend to have a higher sensitivity to dopamine than extroverts. Generally, they really need less dopamine to rejoice. That could explain why they are more content with alone time, reading, and meditation, and really need less external stimulation from parties and other large celebrations. In contrast, Extroverts long for the dopamine rush from dynamic events. Actually, they cannot get enough of it. 5. Synesthesia. The fifth finding, which I find specifically compelling, is the remarkable state called mirror-touch synesthesia. Synesthesia is a neural condition in which two different senses are matched in the brain. An example would be the following. You see colors when you hear a piece of music, or you taste words. Famous synesthetes include Isaac Newton, Billy Joel, and violinist Itzhak Perlman. Nevertheless, with mirror-touch synesthesia, people can actually feel the feelings and feelings of others in their own bodies, just as if they were their own. This is a wonderful neurological explanation of an empath's experience. The Dalai Lama says, "Empathy is the most precious human quality." During these stressful times, it is easy to get overwhelmed. However, empathy is the quality that will get us through. It will allow us to respect one another, even if we disagree. Empathy does not make you a nostalgic softy without discernment. It enables you to keep your heart open, to foster tolerance and understanding. It may not always be effective in getting through to people and creating peace, but I think it's the best chance we have. Chapter 2. Turn empathy into compassion without the compassionate distress. Research shows ways to keep from empathy's pitfalls while remaining selfless. I just recently watched the movie Harriet, detailing the heroic life of abolitionist Harriet Tubman. While the movie was moving and motivating, there were times I felt overwhelmed by emotion to the point of discomfort. I have tried to increase my empathy for others over the years, though regularly mirroring the negative emotions of others can end up being upsetting. What empathy is and why it is essential. Compassion has become a popular subject over the last few years, and over 1,500 books on Amazon have empathy in their title or subtitle. And for good reason. As trauma specialist Bruce Perry said in his book, Born for Love, Why Compassion is Essential and Endangered, compassion underlies virtually everything that makes society work, like trust, selflessness, collaboration, love, charity. Failure to empathize is an essential part of most social problems: criminal offense, violence, war, bigotry, child abuse, and inequality, to name just a few. Empathy is an umbrella term, which broadly includes sensitivity to other people's emotions. Psychologists see the difference between two types. Cognitive empathy, also referred to as mentalizing or perspective-taking. This type of empathy involves purposely adopting another's perspective and trying to understand how they're feeling or thinking. When I properly determined the feelings experienced by Harriet in the film, I demonstrated cognitive empathy. Affective empathy, also called emotional empathy, feeling contagion, vicarious experience, or empathic sharing. Affective empathy requires feeling aspects of another individual's feelings. That somewhat automatic process involves mimicry, where another's expression or behavior is mirrored. When I simulated Harriet's grief at the death of her friend, I revealed affective empathy. Empathy is related to many positive outcomes, including but not limited to improved romantic relationship fulfillment and increased levels of trust between patients and doctors. It's also a precursor to prosocial conduct. The absence thereof has been associated with bullying, hostility, and criminality. Downsides of empathy. While the benefits of empathy are clear, humans are much more very likely to empathize with people they deem a part of their in-group. We are prone to create groups of us versus them. This is an example. Neuroscience researchers have discovered that people experience greater vicarious empathic reactions for people of their own ethnic background compared to other ethnicity members. The division of us and them can be based upon unimportant things. Using fMRI, researchers found greater activation in brain areas related to empathy, the left anterior insula, when individuals viewed members of the exact same sports team receiving pain compared to those from another sports team. In one series of experiments, soccer fans were reminded of their love for their team, then passed by a person in distress who wore either a t-shirt supporting the exact same soccer team, a team supporting a competing team, or a plain t-shirt. Participants helped those wearing a shirt in the support of the exact same team the most, then somebody in a plain t-shirt, and helped those wearing a t-shirt supporting the competing team the least. Empathy not only can magnify in-group predisposition, but also has the potential to end up being empathic distress. This was described by Tanya Singer and Olga Klemecki as a strong, aversive, and self-oriented response to the suffering of others, joined by the desire to withdraw from a scenario so as to secure oneself from extreme negative emotions. When I watched Harriet Tubman encounter difficulty and death in the motion picture Harriet, I felt distressed. I wanted to turn away from her pain. Sadly, extended distress happens often in helping occupations, like medical professionals, nurses, and counselors, to stress out, endangering their own physical and psychological health. Those experiencing empathic distress have increased risk for depression, anxiety, lack of understanding, and compassion for those they are responsible for, and many other physical and psychological symptoms. Empathy versus empathy. While empathy includes catching a vast array of feelings from others, empathy is particularly some feeling of concern for somebody who is suffering, combined with a desire to relieve that suffering. As mentioned in the Oxford Handbook of Compassion Science, while effective empathy might be considered a driver to feeling empathy, effective empathy doesn't ensure, nor is it sufficient to engender, empathy. Researchers Robert Aris and Pascal Molenberg specified, without a feeling regulative network, shared emotions could inhibit our capability to perform tasks that need psychological distance, meaning a cosmetic surgeon operating on a child or a defense lawyer supporting a psychopath. Essentially, there needs to be a neural function that hinders or helps with compassionate responses, more explicitly to permit proper functioning in day-to-day life. Empathy might function as part of that emotion regulative network. Feelings of compassion are at chances with empathic distress. When somebody feels thoughtful, the feeling is other-focused, positive, and secures against burnout. While effective empathy includes handling the negative emotions of others, compassion welcomes feelings of love and heat toward others, preventing the desire to desert those that are suffering. How to transform empathy into compassion. Moving away from empathic distress and toward empathy involves compassion training, wherein psychologists use meditation-related methods to cultivate feelings of generosity and compassion. Generally, this form of psychological practice is performed in silence as one envisions a person they feel near to, themselves, a neutral individual, an opponent, and then expands to all of mankind. At each stage, the person is wished love, compassion, and liberty from suffering. This training has been shown to increase positive effect and wellness throughout everyday life. Singer and Klemecki found the amount of time participants practice compassion forecasted how much a specific type of helping conduct increased, namely pure altruistic helping, reciprocity-based helping. This indicates that empathy training specifically increases pro-social motivation instead of just norm adherence. When Singer and Klemecki randomly designated individuals to receive either empathy training or compassion training, those that used empathy training had greater activation in the insula and anterior middle cingulate cortex, parts associated with vicariously feeling the suffering of others. Though those that were trained in compassion revealed activation in the median orbitofrontal cortex and ventral striatum, parts connected with vicarious enjoyable touch and shared social rewards. The ones who experienced empathy training reported more positive feelings than those in the empathy training group. This was true for me while I watched the suffering of those in the motion picture Harriet. When I tried to take on their grief, I was overwhelmed. Yet, when I shifted my focus to feel love and kindness toward the characters, with a desire that their suffering would be alleviated, my distress for them was changed with a feeling of motivation. That last sentence, and go from here. In the research study about soccer fans discussed earlier, scientists realized that reminding participants of their love for soccer, not just their specific team, increased helping rates to the competing team. Similar results were found in Australia, where reminding students of a typical Australian identity increased helping behavior toward Native Australians. It seems then that one's perceived in-group can be manipulated and broadened using small hints, and practicing compassion meditation may help. The secret to authentic caring and selflessness lies within empathy, not effective empathy. Chapter 3. The 4 reasons that people end up being empaths. Why do people end up being empaths? Is it personality, genetics, trauma, neglectful or helpful adult upbringing? As a psychiatrist and an empath, I have seen that there are 4 primary elements which can contribute to heightening one's sensitivities. Reason 1. Character. Some infants enter the world with more sensitivity than others, an innate character. You can see it when they come out of the womb. They are much more responsive to light, smells, touch, movement, temperature, and sound. These babies appear to be empaths right from the start. Reason 2. Genetics. From what I've observed with my patients, some forms of sensitivity could be genetically transmitted. Highly sensitive kids can originate from moms and dads with the exact same innate qualities. Because of that, it is possible that sensitivity can also be genetically transferred through families. Reason 3. Trauma. Youth disregard or abuse can affect your sensitivity levels as a grown-up. A part of empaths I've dealt with have experienced early trauma such as psychological or physical abuse, or they were raised by an alcoholic, depressed, or narcissistic parents or caretakers. This could possibly wear down the normal healthy defenses that a child with supporting parents develops. As a consequence of their training, they generally don't feel seen by their families and feel undetectable in the greater world that doesn't value sensitivity. Reason 4. Encouraging parenting. Yet, positive parenting can help sensitive children develop and honor their gifts. Parents or caretakers are effective good examples for all children, specifically sensitive ones. In all cases, however, we empaths haven't learned to prevent stress in the exact same way as others do. We're different in that respect. A poisonous stimulus, such as an upset person, crowds, noise, or bright light, can agitate us because our threshold for sensory overload is incredibly low. Healing is possible for all sensitive people. Even if you've experienced early trauma or have been raised by abusive or narcissistic parents or caretakers, it is necessary that you learn to feel safe enough to embrace your sensitive feelings now. Part of this involves learning how to set healthy boundaries with others and choosing positive people in your circle who can support your sensitivities. Moreover, security and centering strategies and meditations can help to reinforce your core, so you can be both strong and sensitive. In the Empath Survival Guide, I detail many methods you can use in your life to feel safe as an empath. The objective is for empaths to be empowered and use their sensitivities to be loving to themselves, their intimates, and create love in the world. Chapter 4: Empaths and Addiction. Why are empaths so vulnerable to alcohol, drugs, sex, food, gaming, shopping, and other dependencies? Empaths can end up being overwhelmed and overstimulated as a result of their severe sensitivity. When they feel way too much, including their own or another's pain, some empaths self-medicate. If they do not know how to manage this sensory overload, they numb themselves to shut off their thoughts and emotions to reduce empathy, though not everyone understands this motivation. You pay a high cost for coping with your vulnerable feelings through addictions. They wear down your body, mind, and spirit, creating disease, depression, and more anxiety as you try to manage an overstimulating world. At best, dependencies only supply short-range relief from sensory overload, but in the long-lasting, they quit working and will worsen your emotions of being overwhelmed. Self-evaluation and getting support. Though not all alcoholics or addicts soak up other individuals' energy, I have observed that a very large portion do. Sadly, many empaths stay undiagnosed and do not understand how overstimulation and high sensitivity fuel their addicting behaviors. It is for this reason essential to understand whether you're coping with your feelings by taking part in dependencies. How do you know? Ask yourself the following questions. Have I ever thought, life would be so much better if I did not drink or overeat? Have I ever tried to stop overeating or using substances for a month, but could only last some days in spite of my best intentions? Am I self-medicating to ease social anxiety or the tension I handle from the world? If you presume you are using alcohol, drugs, overindulging, or addicting habits to manage the sensory overload of being an empath, take a little bit of time to review how you cope by assessing the following statements. I turn to substances or other dependencies when I'm overwhelmed by feelings, mine or another's. I'm in psychological pain and feel disappointed, anxious, or depressed. My feelings are hurt. I feel awkward in my own skin. I cannot sleep. I feel emotionally hazardous in a scenario. I feel criticized, blamed, or declined. I feel shy, anxious, or do not fit in socially. I'm isolating in the home, and I really need the confidence to go out in public. I'm tired and need an energy boost. I feel drained by energy vampires. I want to get away and shut out the world. Here's how to analyze this self-assessment. Answering yes to even one statement shows that you sometimes turn to a dependency to manage your feelings. Answering 2 to 5 yeses suggests that you moderately depend on a dependency to self-medicate emotions of sensory overload. Answering 6 or more yeses indicates you are mainly coping with empathy by participating in addicting conduct. Alternatives to self-medicating. Strategies and solutions. Self-awareness is liberating. No embarrassment, no blame. By understanding your addictive tendencies, you're getting a larger gratitude of how you manage your empathy. Then you can more productively deal with it. Here are some steps to help manage sensory overload. First, it is needed to recognize your dependency. Honestly assess. How much do I drink or take other substances weekly? How typically do I overindulge to cope with feeling overwhelmed? Do I turn to other addictions, such as sex, love, gambling, shopping, video games, the internet, or extreme work, to lower my anxiety level or turn off my sensitivities? Be caring with yourself. Think about if you have a pattern of self-medicating your emotions. Self-medicating even one time per week or month suggests that you could have a problem with addiction. Second, it's crucial to understand that absolutely nothing on the outside, no substance, person, job, or amount of money, can make you feel comfortable with yourself and your feelings. Happiness is an inside job. You must learn to know, love, and accept yourself, a lifelong process of discovery. The more you range from your sensitive feelings, the more uncomfortable you're going to get. Like the Buddha said, there is no external refuge. Third, for a continuous plan to resolve your addiction, you might want to consider going into psychotherapy or going to a 12-step conference for support. It is necessary to find healing techniques to influence you in having a healthy relationship with yourself and others. And then, as an empath, you will not be at the mercy of the painful feelings of sensory overload, and you're going to have the ability to center yourself and find a liberating sense of balance in your life. Chapter 5. How empathic parenting is the reverse of narcissism. Many parents or caregivers out there are trying hard to rail against their own upbringing, but struggle with how to parent and love unconditionally, and at the exact same time raise good human beings in a world where narcissism dominates. Lack of empathy is a hallmark of narcissistic parents. Empathizing with your kids is feeling what they're feeling and acknowledging those emotions. It's the art of empathy and sensitivity, and also the capability to give ethical support in whatever they're experiencing. You don't have to agree with them, but you are there for them. You put aside your own feelings and thoughts for the moment and tune into their emotional needs to try to understand where they are coming from and why. Rather than citing rules or attempting to give guidance and direction, try this empathy exercise instead. To understand includes recognizing the feelings your child is expressing and telling him or her that you recognize the feeling in the moment. I hear that you're mad. You are feeling miserable. I see that you are very upset. Having the ability to demonstrate some empathy to a child at any age makes him or her feel real and essential as a person. This is challenging to do when a kid is upset with you. Whenever you find your child's emotions to be threatening or distressing, remember that understanding is not concurring. It is acknowledging a real feeling. This is an example. My 5-year-old granddaughter asked for a cookie before supper. I said, "No, we can have one after dinner." In a normal 5-year-old manner, she then said, "I dislike you, Nana." Well, I know she does not hate me, and so does she, but she was angry that she did not get a cookie right then, and that was okay. I was able to say to her, "Honey, I know you do not hate your Nana, but you are mad now simply because you want the cookie, and I understand that. I wish to have a cookie too right now, but we have to wait until after dinner. It's all right to speak about our mad emotions, though, and I'm glad you told me." In this example, my granddaughter needed to feel confirmed and acknowledged. Then she was just fine. The temptation in circumstances like this is to get angry back at the child and even punish her, which only makes the kid feel just as if she has to stuff or muffle her own emotions. Your anger or punishment will also make the circumstance worse, and feelings will escalate. Older kids and teens often are deliberately disrespectful to you. In this situation, you do have to set limits, but in order for your kid to feel heard, you still have to acknowledge the emotions behind the words. This is an example. An out-of-control teenager could call her mother a bad name because she's angry about not being able to go to the shopping center. But the mother must set limitations and consequences for this violent behavior. At the same time, she can acknowledge the feeling that the kid is upset. It is unexpected to parents or caretakers, the first time they do this, how effective it is in deflating kids' balloons of anger. The child can typically end up being more reasonable just because she has been seen and heard. She got a voice. When my son was all about 12 years old, he got back from school one day really mad and started throwing things around in a huff. When we later took a seat to dinner, he picked up a plate and knocked it on the table. My first impulse was to tell him to knock it off and go to his room, but I said, "Honey, something is awfully wrong. You are really mad. Let's speak about what is wrong." This instantly deflated the big red balloon of anger, and he had the ability to reveal his emotions of being upset with his sister for something I cannot truly remember. I know now and knew then that if I had sent him to his room or instantly penalized him, his conduct would have intensified, and we most likely would have never gotten to the true emotions. Whatever he was upset about was much less important than acknowledging his feelings about it in the moment. He got to have a voice and be heard, and I was rewarded by no damaged dishes. When we can give empathy to our kids or loved ones, we are doing a double good deed. Not only are we giving the best gift we can give another person, but we're also modeling how to do it. Remarkably, the capability to give empathy starts with doing that for yourself, in the form of self-compassion. Learning to tune into your own feelings and acknowledging those will help you have the ability to do that for your own kids. If raised in an egotistical family, this is an ability that was not taught. Respecting yourself will give you the tools to be kind to your children. Learning self-compassion is hard for adult children of narcissistic parents or caregivers. Not only were they not shown and told this, but also they were often taught that this is selfish conduct. Absolutely nothing could be farther from the truth. We can't give what we don't have. In a civilization where we're typically judged by what we do rather than for who we are, self-esteem can roller coaster within a day depending upon our perceptions of a success or failure. Discovering to forfeit perfectionism and understanding that empathy for self and our kids is not only an ability worth learning, but a gift that keeps on giving. What if sound parenting, as well as the pursuit of joy, was as simple as this: the art of empathy? Chapter 6: How to Become a More Compassionate Marriage Partner. Empathy is the result from understanding another person deeply. When we look at the world from our partner's viewpoint, we begin to bridge the space of understanding between us. However, when we're emotionally triggered by tension, fear, and anger, it is extremely challenging to feel sorry for and understand the other individual's perspective. We are too wrapped up in our own thoughts to think clearly. When we take some time to soothe ourselves, space appears to see a completely different perspective. We start to notice that we have something to do with the circumstance we find ourselves in. Very immediately, we have the ability to see the part we play in the situation. We can see our lack of empathy and understanding, and our anger decreases. And we aren't focused on being right and making the other individual out to be so completely wrong. There is room to see an issue from their viewpoint. Moving from our heels in the cement position allows the other individual to end up being more flexible also. By being accountable for our role in the conflict, we set things up for our partner to be more apt to taking responsibility for their actions. It's hard to not be so defensive. Dropping defensiveness is just one of the hardest things to do. We end up being defensive when we're afraid and try to protect ourselves from this fear. When our partner tries to secure himself or herself by being argumentative, aggressive, incredibly elusive, withdrawing, or trying to avoid being mentally susceptible, instead of trying to get them to quit it, try asking yourself and them the following questions. Is there anything I'm doing that's causing you to feel restless or frightened right now? Am I giving you a good reason not to trust me? Am I acting or speaking in ways that make you feel I'm not appreciating what you're saying or feeling? What is it that you want me to comprehend? These are effective questions, and it's probably better not to ask them unless you're prepared to accept your partner's reactions without judging or questioning them. To do so only gives him or her more reasons to feel unsafe and misinterpreted. Listening without blame or judgment promotes empathy, which is the antidote to defensiveness. Tension can dissolve very rapidly if we are truly happy to try to empathize with the truth of our partner's feelings and understandings. When an intentional decision is made to make the effort to search for our own part in any given breakdown in a relationship, and to put ourselves aside enough to look at the problem from the other individual's point of view, the possibility for comprehending expands. With practice, and with time, we become more empathic partners. When we commit to becoming more compassionate, we begin to try to find our complicity. We pay closer attention. This higher level of responsibility causes less arguing, more consistency, and more closeness. Once we understand how much is at stake, the well-being of our relationship, the motivation to cultivate empathy heightens, and we are no longer going to go for less. Chapter 7. Social network exacerbates perceived social seclusion. One of the ironies of excessive use of social networks is that instead of making a person feel more socially connected, the latest research suggests that heavy use of social networks can intensify feelings of social seclusion. According to a new country analysis performed by scientists at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medication, young adults in the United States who use social media more regularly than their peers report higher levels of perceived social isolation. The March 2017 report was released yesterday in the American Journal of Preventive Medication. This research was led by Brian Primack, director of Pitt's Center for Research on Media, Tech, and Health, CRMTH. For this study, Primack and associates sampled 1,787 U.S. adults ranging from ages 19 to 32, using surveys to identify patterns of day-to-day and weekly social networks use. The scientists evaluated individuals' perceived social seclusion using an evaluation tool called Patient-Reported Results Measurement Info System. Study participants were asked about their time and frequency spent using 11 of the most well-known social media platforms at the time the research study started in 2014. These included Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, Vine, and LinkedIn. The scientists found out that participants who use social networks for more than 2 hours a day had twice the odds for reporting perceived social seclusion than their peers, who spent less than a half hour on social networks every day. Significantly, individuals who visited numerous social networks platforms 58 or more times per week were 3 times more likely to experience perceived social seclusion than the ones who went to social network sites less than 9 times a week. In a statement to UPMC, Primack described the pertinence of this research. This is an essential issue to study because mental illness and social seclusion are at epidemic levels among young adults. We are inherently social beings, but modern-day life tends to separate us rather than bringing us together. While it may appear that social networks present opportunities to fill that social void, I think this study suggests that it could not be the resolution people were wishing for. It's notable to point out that in a typical chicken or the egg situation that reminds us that connection doesn't necessarily mean causation, it was unrealistic for the researchers to identify if excessive social network use or perceived social seclusion came first. It's possible that young adults who at first felt socially isolated turned to social media. Or it could be that their increased use of social networks in some way led to feeling separated from the real world. It also could be a combination of both. But even if the social seclusion proceeded, it did not seem to be alleviated by hanging around online, even in supposedly social circumstances. Social network use displaces more authentic social experiences because the more time a person spends online, the less time there is for real-world interactions. Certain qualities of social media assist in emotions of being excluded, like when one sees pictures of friends having some fun at an occasion to which they were not welcomed. Direct exposure to highly idealized representations of peers' lives on social network sites may generate emotions of envy and the distorted belief that others lead happier and more successful lives. Primack and Miller encourage doctors and health practitioners to ask clients of any ages about their social media use and to counsel them on the advantages of lowering screen time if it appears connected to perceived social seclusion. Having said that, they are really fast to mention that a lot more research is needed to completely comprehend all the subtleties and potential advantages and disadvantages surrounding social network use. Perceived social isolation boosts tension hormonal agents and inflammation. People are inherently social beings. Research continues to show that the majority of us need to maintain robust, in-person social connectivity so as to optimize our physical and mental well-being throughout our lifespan. In recent years, countless studies have reported on the various benefits of face-to-face social contact and the hindrances of perceived social isolation. For instance, a November 2015 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences reported that perceived social isolation causes physiological changes that can make somebody sick or die prematurely. In fact, the scientists learned that for older adults, perceived social isolation can increase the risk of premature death by 14%. This study was led by John Cacioppo from the University of Chicago. Cacioppo is a world-renowned social psychologist and neuroscientist who studies the biological results of isolation in human beings and animals. In previous research, Cacioppo found out that social seclusion is linked to remarkable boosts in the tension hormonal agent cortisol, hardening of the arteries, which leads to high blood pressure, inflammation in the body, and can diminish executive function, learning, and memory. John Cacioppo emphasizes that privacy is not necessarily bad for your health or a cause for solitude. Rather, it's the subjective sense of feeling lonely or perceived social seclusion that's most disruptive. Obviously, many people choose to spend a lot of time alone and aren't always lonely. Along these lines, many people who use social networks frequently do not suffer from perceived social isolation. That being said, an October 2015 study showed that the mental health benefits of routine in a person's social interactions can decrease a person's risk of depression. The Oregon Health and Science University, OHSU, scientists found that having limited in-person social contact almost doubles somebody's risk of having depression. Surprisingly, study participants who made the effort to frequently get in touch with family and friends personally were much less likely to report symptoms of depression when compared with individuals who only texted, emailed, or spoke to friends and family on the telephone. Research suggests that relying too much on social media, online, for a sense of connectedness can backfire. The majority of us need to participate in face-to-face contact and nurture intimate, close-knit human bonds, to make use of natural systems that have developed for centuries to protect our quality of life, and also our mental and physical wellness. Brian Primack concluded, "People engage with one another over social media in many different ways. In a pretty big population-based research study like this, we report overall tendencies that may or may not apply to each individual. I don't doubt that some people using certain platforms in particular ways could find comfort and social connectedness by means of social media relationships." Having said that, the results of this research study simply reminds us that, on the whole, use of social networks tends to be connected with increased social seclusion and not decreased social seclusion. Clearly, in the proper dosage, social media may have the power to enhance human bonds and make people feel connected. Finding a tonic level for your personal social network use seems the key to profiting of online social networks without running the risk of the negative psychological and physical effects of overusing social media in the vacuum of perceived social isolation. Chapter 8. The very best ways in which empaths can heal from traumatic experiences. Empaths and sensitive people often experience some level of post-traumatic tension. This is, in part, because they are on sensory overload for so many years that their systems are flooded with adrenaline. Other reasons include early overlook, abuse, or simply that they didn't feel seen or have their sensitivities supported in their families. I have written about this subject in Thriving as an Empath. Early trauma can come in many forms. Possible sources include hearing your parents or sisters and brothers regularly argue, being reportedly shouted at, physical and/or emotional abuse, being shamed or blamed for being excessively sensitive, or being bullied. Even experiencing extreme continuous home noise and mayhem can feel terrible. An empathic kid's highly sensitive system can soak up more tension than others would in these circumstances. Your past can still impact you now. When you are exposed to a similar stimulus as an adult, like a difference with your partner, you could have an overstated psychological reaction just because you are flashing back to the original trauma. This is similar to a veteran who misreads a car backfiring as a bomb going off. With post-traumatic tension, your system cannot totally return to its calmer state before the upset or perhaps the preliminary event. You are never ever rather at rest and remain familiar with protecting yourself from more threats. Empaths are at risk of becoming hypervigilant, which is a draining pipe for empaths. You could keep scanning your environment to make sure you are really safe from being drained or entering a state of hyperarousal. If you were exposed to early trauma or abuse as an empathic child, which includes not feeling seen by your parents, you could have become exquisitely attuned to your environment to ward off hazard. When your young nervous system develops without healing, you can become hypervigilant. Empaths are typically mistaken for being aloof or snobbish, but others do not recognize that the distance you seem to keep is because you're concentrated on protecting yourself and making sure that the ground is sturdy. The Buddhists say, there's always a groundless ground there to support you. Even when you are inundated with extreme stimulation, the groundless ground is always there. 7 healing methods. Write in a diary about your early traumas. Then you can be knowledgeable about them. None are too little to count. This is the primary step to releasing yourself from the past. Obtain your inner child. In a peaceful moment, think back to when the early trauma happened. How old were you? Where did it happen? Then picture yourself returning to the house or other area where it occurred, and obtaining your wounded inner child who has been stuck there. Tell the child, I am sorry you were hurt, and I am never, ever going to allow that to happen to you again. Then take the child home with you and take care of them with love. Psychological release. As you heal, many feelings will appear: anger, fear, depression, insecurity. Let yourself feel and reveal these emotions. A supportive therapist can develop a safe environment for you to do this. Set clear boundaries. Learn how to stick up for yourself. Don't be a doormat. If someone isn't treating you well, say in a firm, neutral tone, "Let's discuss this when you're calmer," or "It hurts my emotions when you say, I would really appreciate it if you stop." But also remember that no is a complete sentence. Sensitive people are typically afraid to disappoint others, but it's necessary to get in the habit of saying no when something doesn't feel right. Mindful breathing. When your old traumas are activated, Take several slow, deep breaths to soothe your system before you respond. Meditate. Routine meditation relaxes the mind, body, and soul. It decreases sensory overload and keeps your system in a serene state. Practice self-compassion. Shower yourself with love and generosity as you go through the healing process. You are a caring individual who deserves to be loved. It is usually helpful to speak with a therapist to overcome the original trauma. Beneficial methods for clearing trauma include EMDR, the Emotional Freedom Tapping Method, EFT, and somatic awareness. Since trauma typically lodges in the body, it's also useful to get routine massage or energy work to clear any remnants that you are holding on to. Give yourself time to heal. Be patient and loving with yourself. Mourn the losses you experience. Enable yourself to experience your emotions and memories without any judgment. Healing is a workout in loving yourself. The great news is that past trauma can be recovered. In that process, you are going to end up being more at ease with your compassionate abilities and learn how to protect your feelings using the techniques I suggested. As a result, you'll have the ability to relax more. The world will feel like a more secure place to inhabit. Chapter 9. Empathic Parenting versus Rescue Parenting. What are the differences and resemblances between compassionate and rescue parenting? Empathy is the ability to comprehend and share another person's experiences and emotions. It is the capability to share someone else's emotions. Being an empathic parent means many things, consisting of having patience, comprehending a child's feelings and where they originate from, experiencing things from a child's perspective, reacting to children in ways in which help kids instead of sticking to a parent's agenda, regardless of whether it is helpful. Making the effort to understand a child's actions. Understanding first, while keeping back on reacting to the circumstance. Working as a team with a child to find the best solutions to the issue. Sharing emotions and experiences, which permits children to know that parents have strong feelings that they have endured. Letting go of a preconceived parental expectation and accepting a child for who they are. There is some confusion relating to the distinction between making a kid feel good and being compassionate to a child. In today's youth sports, for example, when a sports season is finished, all of the kids earn a medal for their participation. There is not a difference between children. Anybody who showed up at the games gets a medal. What is the issue with distinguishing among the players and rewarding the best players for their skills, dedication, effort, and so forth? The response from many supporters of their medal for participation model is that only recognizing outstanding performance or excellence would make the other kids feel bad. Being a compassionate parent is not associated with helping children keep from disappointment and feelings of failure. Parents today are puzzled in that they believe that protecting their children from the struggles of everyday life is a way to make their child feel better and be more successful. These helicopter parents, as they have been coined, aim to rescue their child before they start to have tensions. Their premise is that they need to be involved in most elements of their kid's life to ensure that every chance is had and that tensions and the experience of failure and rejection are kept away from, regardless of the cost. Nonetheless, when will the bad feelings be permitted? Research has shown that allowing children to embrace frustrations and helping them learn skills to manage negative life events allows children to develop resiliency. Why are some parents today excessively invested in stopping their children from being dissatisfied by experiencing life's unavoidable traps? Don't children learn from failure the exact same way that a grown-up does? Do children need a medal at the end of the soccer season to feel valued or to stay away from emotions of failure? My children have received so many medals for involvement in so many sports. that by the time real awards were provided, I worry that they won't know the distinction. This has been EMPATH, a survival guide for healing and recovery. Written by Camelia Henson. Narrated by Samantha Novak. Copyright year 2020 by Camelia Henson. Production copyright by Camelia Henson.